Honorable Men Discord. Chris Brown locked up in the UK. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
Okay, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's continue. So, Chris Brown was locked up in the UK. Now, I was waiting to see if there was more material to speak on. I was waiting to see whether or not there was more information other than what was given. But for those of you that are unaware of this whole situation, let's get straight to the news report courtesy of Live Now from Fox, and we'll talk about it after.
Grammy-winning singer Chris Brown's upcoming tour now thrown into question as a British judge has just ordered him held in custody while facing allegations that he beat a music producer with a bottle in a London nightclub in 2023. The 36-year-old appeared in Manchester court to face one count of causing previous bodily harm and was held until his next hearing, June 13th, in London. That's the same day that he's due to take the stage over in Germany on the third date of his world tour. The judge rejecting Brown's bail request after the prosecutor said the crime was, quote, extremely serious. Brown was on tour in the UK in February 2023 when he launched an unprovoked attack on that producer, striking him several times with a bottle at the Tape nightclub in the swanky Mayfair neighborhood that's over in London, according to officials there. Brown then apparently chased that producer and punched and kicked him in an attack caught on surveillance camera in front of a club full of people. Again, this is according to prosecutors and other officials in that area. Defense attorney Grace Forbes arguing that the American performer was not a flight risk and should be released. Brown was flanked by court officers in the dock. His hair was bleached blonde, and he wore sweatpants and a black T-shirt. He confirmed his name and birth date and said that his address was a local hotel where he was arrested early Thursday and taken into custody. His case was transferred to the Southwark Crown Court that is over in London, where he's expected to enter a plea to that charge. Brown's representative did not immediately respond to any request for comment from the Associated Press, and Brown, often called by his nickname of Breezy, burst onto the music scene as a teen back 20 years ago in 2005 and has become a major hit maker. The singer is due to launch an international tour next month with several other artists, opening with a European leg that is on June 8th over in Amsterdam before starting North America shows in July. So again, he has been ordered to be held there in the UK, and that does put his next tour in jeopardy here. We'll, of course, keep you updated as we do get much more information coming into our newsroom.
What can you say to that, right? The common theme of a lot of these episodes is that it doesn't matter your celebrity, you're human. And you're going to make mistakes. But this is not one of those cases where I'm just going to write it off as Chris Brown made a mistake. All right? It said repeatedly hitting somebody with a bottle. When you do something repeatedly, is that a mistake? I don't think so. You hit the guy over the head with the bottle maybe one time. Is that a mistake? I don't think so. Was he intoxicated? I don't know. Do any of you think that's a mistake? Repeatedly hitting the producer over the head with hitting the producer with a bottle. They didn't say over the head, but hitting the producer with a bottle. Do you think that's a mistake? Then after that, chasing that person down, because I was, trying to take a little notes here. Chasing that person down, you punched and kicked them on camera. So you completely were out of your mind, right? You were completely out of your mind. Where were the road managers or road manager? Where was Chris Brown's security? Where was anyone in his entourage, maybe from the label? Did they try to speak to him and he was out of control? This is crazy. And this is why I try to blend a message with the material. I don't just like to report the material. I know many of you are like, oh, you take so long to get to the point. Some people have said that. Listen, this is about a message. What are we learning from what some of these celebrities are doing? Are we learning anything at all? Unfortunately, within our community, we have some individuals that just never grow up or never seem to take time to better themselves, whether it be therapy, anger management, substance abuse counseling. I don't know if it's an issue, a PR issue where they feel like, oh, this doesn't look good for my brand. I'm pretty sure there's ways of going about taking care of yourself without the world knowing. I'm sure you can achieve that. Maybe not. I'm just assuming you can achieve that. Amy Winehouse at one point tried that herself, and it ended up on a documentary. But I'm only saying that to say this. What exactly are we doing here? All right. I'm a fan of Chris Brown's music, so before anyone jumps in the comments and says, "Oh, you trying to, throw dirt on his name," no. Chris Brown he's doing that for himself. Chris Brown is doing that for himself. This is where accountability comes into it. And I'm not here to be biased for any celebrity or entertainer, and I'm not here to hate on them either. I wish Chris Brown many more years of success. And anyone else I cover, it's nothing personal, but I do have issue with the actions of some that affect the community. Because Chris Brown, whether you like him or not, is on the same level as Michael Jackson. And the reason why I'm bringing Michael Jackson's name into this is because Chris Brown, at one point in time when Michael Jackson was still alive, performed with Michael Jackson on stage. And I believe Usher did as well. Once you do things like that, you're on another stratosphere. All right. You're not a lower level. You're not a B level or C level entertainer at that point. Right. And that doesn't make you better than others that are a B level or C level entertainers. But what I'm trying to convey is there's a responsibility that should be exercised on all levels, but especially levels that great. And if I'm wrong, I'll see you in the comments. Or if you think I'm wrong, I'll see you in the comments. Because I actually think I'm right with what I'm saying. And it's the common theme that I'm seeing throughout various episodes is that we just embrace ignorance. We just love it. We love it. And you can't say Chris Brown did this because he had something to prove, ego. I don't think this is about ego. What does he have to prove? You have nothing to prove, and I'm saying this to Chris Brown. You have nothing to prove because you're successful. We know you're successful. We know you're extremely talented. You could dance your ass off. We know this. You could sing your ass off. We know this. All the other stuff, the gangster stuff and being tough, what are you doing that for? What exactly are you doing that for? Or is that really who you are? That's a whole nother story. And I can't say whether or not that's who he really is, but the way law enforcement and things like that look at things is they look at a pattern. Same thing that's going on with the Diddy case. They're looking for patterns. Because you could say one thing, you could at the top of your lungs say I'm innocent. I'm not that guy that they're trying to pay me to be. But we look at patterns. We look at patterns. We look at history. We look at we look at the type of person you were when you first came in the industry up until now. And we just go through all the times your name popped up for unfavorable things. Why did they pop up? What type of accusations? What are the common themes between those accusations? If it keeps happening, of course, right? If it keeps happening, you're most definitely gonna be, or I should say, appear to be that which you say you're not. And that's no doing on, that's no conspiracy theories on people they're out for Chris Brown and trying to make him look some kind of way. No, that's Chris Brown. At some point in time, Chris Brown has to admit that Chris Brown is being Chris Brown. I, for the life of me, don't understand why certain entertainers, and athletes act the way they do when they've reached a level of success. Because Lord knows there's a lot of people out there that were just like a fraction of that success. And there's those out there that were just like a fraction of that success that know how to conduct themselves as human beings. Right? We're not even going to put a race on this. Just as a human being. You know, I listen, I understand getting upset. I understand being angry about something. I understand having disputes. Those things may never go away in your lifetime. You're going to get upset. You're going to have a dispute. But from what the news report is saying, you know, beating someone with a bottle and then chasing them down, that's not the behavior of Chris Brown. That doesn't sound like it. Just hearing that, it's like, that's not what a Chris Brown would do. Someone whose face he can't go anywhere. We know who you are, which is why I don't know. First of all, I don't even know what made him think that he could do that 2 years ago, come back to the UK, and it was going to, you know, to that magnitude, that he could do something to that magnitude. I would have back then been trying to rectify the situation, apologize to the guy after I cooled down, throw him some money, throw the guy some money. I don't know the extent of it. You know, I'm saying what I would have done. I would have threw the guy some money, apologized, said, you know, I lost it, you know, forgive me, you know, throw him some money, get something in writing that both parties are squared away. But obviously I can only assume those things weren't done, because you thought it happened 2 years ago, you thought it was over and done with, and then you go back to the UK and the judge is like, wait, hold up, he's in town, send the authorities to go pick him up. Or, you know, like the report said, someone flagged him to the authorities and they went and picked him up. In any event, he's going to be sitting now in custody until June, and it's going to affect his tour. So the point I'm trying to make, you know, where am I going with this? The point I'm trying to make to those that are successful, those that aren't successful, is careful the decisions you make. All this, you know, standing on business or going off of your ego, your pride, making decisions off of ego and pride, it's going to affect you at some point in time. It may not affect you immediately, but it's going to affect you at some point in time. So careful the decisions you make. Anyone that's disagreeing with what I just said, I'll see you in the comments, but keep it respectful. I'll see you in the comments, but we have to do better. And then you're doing things like that. One other thing I have to say is that energy, that whole keep the same energy stuff, I can't stand it just as much as I can't stand, and I said this before, the term I'm outside, especially if you're outside and you're just wreaking havoc in your neighborhood, bringing your neighborhood down. You know, innocent people can't enjoy the neighborhood they live in because you're outside and you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing. But this whole keep the same energy phrase that is embraced by some, it's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard, because you have Chris Brown acting as though he's in the United States 2 years ago in the UK, because I'm assuming this is the behavior he does in the US. I could only assume, because you don't just go to another place and all of a sudden you transform into somebody else. Although this, excuse me, although there are individuals that do things like that. You know, you're one way in the United States, you go to another country, and all of a sudden you're a superhero. Maybe that's his situation. I don't know. But Chris Brown has had his several court appearances in the United States. But my point is, you go to the UK and you're acting as though you're in the United States. What are you doing? And that's not to say act a buffoon in the United States. Don't act a buffoon at all. What I'm trying to tell everyone is, don't go to these other places, other countries, and think you're going to be keeping the same energy and everything's going to be sweet. All right? everything's going to be fine. No, it's not going to be fine, because the things you may get away with in the United States or wherever you may live is not going to be the same. It's not going to have the same repercussions as when you travel and you venture out internationally. All right. You might find yourself in a jam that you can't get yourself out of. And the United States is not just going to get you out of any old jam. It doesn't work that way. You know, it's not one of those things where, you know, like you see in the movies, you run to the embassy and they save you. I mean, this is Chris Brown. Chris Brown, we know he's well off financially, and he has to sit. He's been humbled. UK is like, yeah, you're going to sit. All right. Yeah, it happened how many years ago? 2 years ago. You're still going to sit. Oh, you got a tour? That's fine. You're going to sit. All right. So for those of you watching this, I hope you learned something from this. You know, I hope you're learning something from this. You know, and the older you get, especially when you have children and stuff like that, you got to do better. There's no excuse for this. I can't imagine anyone coming in the comments with an excuse for Chris Brown. But if you're bold enough, I'll see you in the comments. But as always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and I'll see you in the next episode. Take care.